I'm inviting you today to learn more about the Shifting Tides project. I'm sure some of you that I can see on the call already quite aware, but would just give a little sense of this is a project that is supported by Creative Climate Action under the Creative Ireland programme and the Shared Island Initiative, and it's a joint project under NICFA and the Wheel. Today, the whole project, encompasses arts, ecology, citizen science, and community action. And today's focus is on a creatives briefing. So how are we connecting communities through creativity and ecology over the next year or a little more? And how might we go about that? And how might you get involved in that is really the focus. So I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. I'm Suzie Cahn. I always put this in here so as I can remember to tell you who I am in case I have forgotten. I'm Suzie Cahn, the project coordinator for the Shifting Tides project, and I'm going to give you a very short overview of it. A lot of this that you can find now on the shiftingtides.org website, so I'm going to encourage you to go and have a look at that if you haven't already. But it's basically trying to bridge the border, this lock and the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And we know there is already a connection between the communities and their marine environments, but we're just trying to deepen that through a blend of practical hands-on ecology on the intertidal and underwater marine ecology, and then the big word collaborative creative arts workshops, and then co-creating multimedia performances and or shows and events. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. We believe that effective climate action needs to happen at the local level. You can get me onto that hobby horse for very long if you ever want to. I really believe that not only that effective climate action begins at local level, but that if we don't engage there, we can't affect big change. So community involvement and ownership are fundamental to our approach, and we're committed to trying to work closely with impacted local communities to empower them as stewards of their own coastal ecosystems. I said a collaborative approaches because we see that the interaction of all the different pieces that have perhaps become fragmented due to how our current system is designed and working. The part of what we're doing is an anti-fragmenting action. So we see the creative practices as serving as a powerful tool for fostering engagement and getting that understanding in completely new ways of what climate change impacts might be in marine environments, and then how we see that influence that culture can have that shifts huge behavioral change or consciousness change. So our initiating team and the kind of core creative team behind Shifting Tides has this diverse backgrounds, including people with ecology, zoology, engaged art, and heritage and community engagement. So we already have this kind of beginning, and we're trying to see how do we weave in other creative collaborators into this emergent program. So we're looking forward to seeing who that might be and how we bring that forward. I want to just put this front and center because in terms of the creatives interacting, to know that the focus is on the marine environment. And so we are doing a lot of work around marine ecology education, signposting, other opportunities for learning beyond those created and curated by the Shifting Tides project. So really trying to signpost people towards coastal and underwater surveying, and then harvesting local heritage, from the past about how people have interacted with Carlingford Lough through the decades and perhaps even longer ago. So we are committed separately to this to create short films along the way of events, and then to also be taking recordings and creating a podcast as a kind of legacy throughout as well. So all of that's going to keep coming back to interacting with the marine ecology workshop programs and so on. Now, this is the question people obviously want to know and how much money is available if I'm a creative and I want to get involved. I did hear on the grapevine that somebody had heard Tanya Bonotti announce Creative Ireland's entire fund at our launch event over in Rostrevor. And I think that entire fund for Creative Ireland, which is a department of the Government of Ireland, is in the millions. And I think somebody thought we had millions for this year-long engagement in Carlingford. Sadly, that is not the case. So, and we already have some, as I said, a creative team engaged who are already being funded under the call. We have much less than that. So what we have under this beginning part that I'm opening up today is that there are 50 creatives days. I should have put an apostrophe S in there. In other words, I suppose we could have one creative for 50 days. We're going to have two creatives for 25 days, or and so on. So what we're hoping by that, by putting it down in days, for you to think about, well, I could take this many days and I think I could do this with that. And then it's separate from the individual days, and those daily rates that I've put in there are indicative of what's advised by the arts councils, north and south, for a daily rate for creatives. So that's the euros and sterling amounts for those days. And then we additionally have another 5 performance slash show slash events over the coming year. And there are budgets that are just for those. So that could be a venue budget, it could be an equipment budget, it could be, those to be worked out. And then alongside of it, maybe there's co-creation work or arts workshops that could be done with the community that maybe blend into one of these shows, events, or performances. And so we could have some additional workshops. Now, a lot of our workshop budget is going into working with divers and working with the coastal surveying. So there's a that all has to be, I suppose, negotiated. And that's what I want to come on to next, is that how do we want to develop these proposals? And I see Jackie Barker's on the call. I had a chat with a lot of people who have lots of experience of putting out artist calls in various projects. And I suppose I'm listening to what they've told me, and I've also tried to synthesize what we're hoping will happen, because what I think you'll maybe have seen from what I've said already is that if there's an individual creative, we want to really see how could that blend with and work with all the other dimensions or people in the project. So for example, when we kind of modeled this with our very first output. So our very first output as it was a creative show held in the Heritage Centre in Carlingford Village. And in that, this just to describe it, and it was really done to, kick off, but also help that imagination juices flow and see how things could get integrated. So in this case, we had a forager who's a coastal engaged person who does paddleboarding and surf instructing and printmaking and so on. So some of you may have seen this already, but Samuel Arnold Cahn, he did a foraging workshop on the shore. But several days before that, he'd been in Carlingford with his creative partner, Denai, and they had foraged a set from the shoreline of Carlingford for their show Where Seaweed Dances. So first they engaged with the shore. They met people as they were foraging and chatted to them, locals, about what they were doing, and gathered some stories. But before that again, Declan Mallon from Upstate Theatre had been on the Cooley Peninsula collecting stories from older people on the peninsula. So we it's like these evolutions of these ingredients. So then the final output was a show, and the show incorporated foraged things from the shore. It incorporated the voice of a lady called Kathleen talking about her experience of foraging as a child and her brother showing her where razor shells were on the shore. And the audience, at least a third of the audience, participated in learning about foraging on the shore. And then came into a performance that had Kathleen's voice, multimedia projections of water, sound, dance, etc. So I suppose that's why it's difficult to say one artist doing one thing. And so what we've proposed is a proposal development on a kind of dialogical approach. What that means is we want to talk to you. So individually, yes, we want you to explore questions, always relating to the project aims so far they've been articulated and are emerging on the project website. We really want you to think about who are you wanting to work with, to either target to co-create work or to have as your audience for work. In the case of Sammy Lind and I, they knew very clearly because they developed their show in a bunch of residencies. They knew very clearly that it was aimed at children of all ages, in the sense of that it wasn't a schools program, it wasn't with only with children, it was for families. So we had it as a matinee, so as that families of people of children of all ages, the adults, the grandparents, others in the community could come along, but also have that they wanted that lens of the through a child's eyes that you're accompanying to the magic of their show, where the forager encounters a seaweed creature and all manner of things happen. So I guess, to really think about, like, maybe there's pre-work you'd like to do with a particular target audience, maybe who you think is completely unengaged with anything to do with the ecology, the biodiversity of the intertidal, and the underwater, that you think they need to know about this. They need to be engaged with. There's examples in Creative Ireland for down in a previous program of an artist engaging with farmers through art because she felt they were who were not engaged with their local climate action groups. So it might be that you think you'll engage through workshops or through co-development of something, and then that could then uh, come into, as I say, a show, a performance, an event. And then how many days? Obviously, you hope that you could give this work, that you'd like to give this work. I'd like to suggest that we try to work with the principle of fair shares. So knowing that there are 50 days over a year, how many of those do you think you'd like to, take as a resource? And what will you do with them? And then also explain your approach to possible synthesis with others involved in the project. So, like if you are a creator of um, paintings or physical sculptures, could they be incorporated into a dance performance if there's another dancer? So, we want to keep talking and dialoguing and maybe with each other. That's why we're going to follow this online briefing up with a face to face gathering on the 21st of April in Omeath in the Dolman Centre. We will give you some lunch as well. And just there's also a bridging to an opportunity to go and have a look at some ecology with Alex McMaster again, to kind of keep weaving it and not make it a fixed piece. But then once we're getting there, once those conversations have emerged, then I guess you're coming to us with, this is what I want to do. I know who my target audiences are. I know how many days I think I want to give this. And I have these ideas for synthesis. And then you talk to us, the creative team. And then after that, we'll reach final decisions, agreements, and we'll have the budget allocations confirmed. So I'll just give you that a little more visually, or I open up to conversation and questions. So that's kind of the process, the proposal process. Explore the aims as articulated on the website, identify your ideas and your target for co-creation and or audience, then determine the duration for the engagement. What's your planned approach and how might you synthesize with other creatives into events, performances, shows. And then we'll finalize budget allocations, which might be like that there's three people we've sat down together with and we said, yeah, okay, this is definitely going to synthesize into an event, and the three of you are going to get these many days to do that, and here's the budget for the event that you can work with. And then at that point we'll finalize agreements. So I hope I've clarified some of the pieces along the way, just so as you know. We've got a bunch of, sorry, that's what I wanted to show you, is to keep connected, as things are developing. And that will be a key ingredient of how you're working, if, with whatever you're working with, is that we really want to make transparent what everybody's up to. So we will be encouraging everybody, by the way, today, if you haven't already, completed the expression of interest. That's how we kind of GDPR you into the project, so as you are getting emails and so on. But yeah, we're going to look and maybe support and help to make sure that if you're engaged with this project, that you're sharing your engagement through our social media, and so we can give you more details on that. And we may be, working with everybody that's kind of leaning in, whether they're doing coastal surveying or learning on their own journey of learning about marine ecology, or they're creative working with a group. We really want to show throughout this whole year of engagement what's happening and who it's happening with and all the rest of it. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and I'm also going to stop recording there because I'll put that as is onto the website for anybody who wants to go back and look over it.